Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Cobra Chef. My name is Mrs. Curry, and I'm the elementary principal here at Fountain Lake, and this is my daughter,
Addison.
And we are here to make a very neat recipe called quiche. Now, you may not know what quiche is, but it's actually a fancy breakfast pie. So we like to eat this at our house a lot. My daughter is a great homemade pie crust maker, so she is going to be doing that part of it, and then I'm going to be doing the rest of it. Okay, so I'm going to start by browning some sausage. So you actually can make quiche with whatever kind of breakfast meat you like. We like sausage. You could also use bacon if you like bacon, but today we're going to be using sausage and mushroom and pepper jack cheese. So I'm going to start with a roll of breakfast sausage, and I'm going to brown that in my skillet.
To start off your pie crust, you're going to get 1 cup of flour and put it in your mixing bowl.
Okay, so you never want to eat sausage raw, so that's why you're having to cook it. And basically, you're going to cook it kind of like you would hamburger meat. So I'm going to give that a little bit of time to brown. So you want to make sure it's cooked really well. And while I'm waiting on that, then I'm going to actually cut up some mushrooms that we're going to add to this here in just a little bit.
After you have your flour in your bowl, you're going to take a half a teaspoon of salt and mix it with your flour.
Okay, so we're just going to chop up some mushrooms. As soon as this sausage is browning, then I'm going to throw in the mushrooms with the sausage. Now, if you don't like mushrooms, some of you may not like mushrooms, then you totally don't have to put mushrooms in there. You basically can put anything in your quiche or your breakfast pie that you like.
So what really makes the pie crust a pie crust is Crisco or shortening. And we're going to take 1/3 of a cup of Crisco and put it into our pie crust.
Okay, in a separate bowl, I'm going to get my mushrooms ready because we're going to mix all this together here in just a minute. So I'm going to have my mushrooms waiting in there. My sausage is browning. So you can tell the sausage is cooking when it gets a little bit more brown. It starts to turn a light brown color. And you want that red to go away.
So when you're kneading the Crisco into the flour, you're going to make sure to put it on a fork. And then you're going to kind of push the flour and the shortening together to the side of the bowl.
So this may be a fun recipe you want to make with your mom or your dad. When Addison was little, she started making things when we were at home, and so we started out with things like pie crust, and so that's where she just started doing that. And we actually make pies at home, but this is one of our healthy recipes, so we're having this for dinner, and it's called quiche. It's actually spelled with a Q, so you might want to look up how quiche is spelled because it kind of sounds different. You might think it were spelled with a C or a K, but it's actually a Q. Okay, so this is getting pretty close to done, probably a couple more minutes. So while that is continuing to brown, I am going to take 4 eggs. We'll go ahead and do 5 because it's probably going to be a pretty big quiche. And an entire container of 1/2 and 1/2. And some shredded cheese. I like to use pepper jack and a little bit of cheddar. Now, pepper jack is a tiny bit spicy, but it actually adds a pretty good flavor to the quiche, so we're going to use both of these. Okay, so the sausage is almost finished. We've got our mushrooms in here. We have our 5 eggs, so I'm going to crack them into the mushrooms.
After you've cut all of your Crisco into your flour, you really want to make sure that there's no chunks. so that when we add the water in, it's kind of all nice and soft. So after our flour and Crisco is all mixed up together, we're going to take 3 to 5 tablespoons of water. And you may need more than 5, but usually it goes to about 5 or 6. When you're pouring the water into your flour, you want to kind of make sure that you pour it on the edge of the bowl so that it doesn't just splot right in the middle.
Okay, sausage is almost finished, so now I have my egg and mushroom together. I'm now going to pour the entire container of half and half in my bowl. And I'm going to add about half of the pepper jack cheese and half of the cheddar. So I'm just going to mix all this together. Kind of looks like a soup right now, but in just a little bit, it's all going to bake together up really nicely and fluffy. Actually, don't have to drain your sausage because your sausage doesn't put off that much grease, and a little bit of that grease is going to add some flavor.
Sometimes you just have to eyeball how much water you put into your flour because you really just want to make sure it's kind of thick balls so that you can knead it together to roll out your pie crust. Once it gets more into kind of chunks, you're going to take your hands and just kind of knead it together into one big ball.
Okay, so we have the inside of our quiche ready, which we're going to pour into the pie crust here in just a minute. So as soon as she gets that ball of pie crust ready, we're going to roll it out and get it ready to go in our pan.
When you're rolling out your pie crust, you want to make sure you always start from the inside and go to the outside.
So pie crust can be kind of tricky, so you may want to experiment with it a couple times before you get really good at it. Sometimes the warmer the pie crust, the better, and the easier it is to roll out, but then you have to keep flour handy so it doesn't stick to your rolling pin. Now, as you're rolling your pie crust out, you're going to see it kind of take the shape of a circle. A good way to kind of measure how much you need is to take your pan, which you're going to use, and we're going to pour our quiche into it. And I usually kind of flip it over and hover it over the pie crust, and as long as it fits around the pan further than the entire circle, then you've got enough pie crust. But right now we're a little short, so she's going to keep rolling it and making it thinner.
Now when we're going to put our pie crust into our bowl, we're going to flip it in half. And we're going to kind of line it up with the middle and then unfold it.
So pie crust is kind of like Play-Doh. You can very easily
Mold it
and squish it, so you're going to kind of make it fit your pan and kind of press it down because you want it to line your whole pan. Then you also want it to hang over the edges a little bit.
Take some off.
And then we're going to do something on the edge of the container, and it's called fluting. So you can do it with a fork, you can make like a little shape, or you can actually use your fingers to pinch it. And so I'll just kind of show you. You take your 2 fingers on each hand, and you're just going to kind of pinch it, and you're going to kind of make a pretty decorative pie crust at the edge. So you just do that all the way around. It's called fluting. So it just kind of gives your pie crust an edge. Okay, so now your pie crust is ready to go. It is formed to the inside of your pan. You have the outside edges fluted. Our inside of our quiche is ready, and so we're going to mix that up one more time. I'll take a little bit of salt Sprinkle a little bit in there. A bit more. Good. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna mix it up. And we're gonna pour it inside of the pie. It will go almost to the edge. May even go over a little bit. Looks like we got a little much, but it will bake up pretty firm and easily. So once we put it in the oven, then it's gonna kind of all form together. Now our quiche is ready to put in the oven. Okay, so here is our quiche all finished. Looks like this, kind of brown on the top. So we baked it at 400 for about 20 to 30 minutes. When it starts getting kind of brown on the top and the inside doesn't really jiggle, then you know it's finished. Now, if you're a kiddo at home doing this with your parent, please make sure that you have the parent help you take it out of the oven and that they have oven mitts on, because the pan is very hot and we do not want you to get burnt. So once this is ready, probably let it set for about 10 minutes, let it cool a little bit, and then your parent can use a knife and cut it into little pie slices, and then you have dinner ready to go.
Thank you for watching this episode of Cobra Chef.
Hope you get to try quiche with your mom and enjoy a healthy dinner.